Chapter 1 of probably a long-awaited series for a lot of people is Hiramashima's brand new work, E.N.D. Zero. Now, we've been talking about this for the past couple of days. We've been wondering where this exactly would be going, and for some of you, this might either be your first series with the guy, so I'll give you a little bit of context as well before we begin the review, but I think the main question for everyone is that, people wanted to know, is this a good first chapter? Is this a first thing that you really want to see more of on there? And as someone that's been, personally into, a lot of his works, mainly being Rave Master, and of course, Ozzy with Fairy Tail, then I would definitely love to see more of this. Will it survive, the long onslaught of shonen, magazines and stuff like that? We'll just have to wait and see, for the most part, but definitely fair. And none of you guys, he is the creator of Rave Master, Fairy Tail, Monster Soul. He's worked on the actual some of the Monster Hunter designs. He's had quite a bit of effect on a lot of work on there. And for people that are thinking that this is going to be more than thoroughly different than his other stuff, there are some interesting new things about this series, but I still think we're going to be expecting kind of the same stuff that we're going to be getting from his past previous series. So I say if you read and if you didn't like Fairy Tail, if you read and didn't like Rave Master, then I probably wouldn't recommend E.N.D. Zero for you. Now, I like saying all that context. I do have all the volumes behind me and most of the art books, so this is going to be pretty, I would say this would be more biased than anything on there, since I've had such a, I really do enjoy a series. But I will be trying to be realistic with some of the things where it's okay, that's something I have an issue with, or that's when we jump into it. So let's jump into Chapter 1, and I'm very excited to say that, of E.N.D. Zero. Now, this is a lengthy chapter. This is about, 80 plus pages or so of content, and we get to see straight up as a little kid our main character Shiki, and he's there looking up in the sky with this old demon robot, which we get to see on there, and this other one known as Michael, and he's talking oh, what's that in the sky? Oh, is that a dragon? There's got to be something up there. And he's and the one robot is that's probably a comet, that's just being realistic on there. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like the little relationship thing that you saw already with this father figure of the Demon King at the start, because he's just there laughing at Shiki. He's ha, you got punked kid, that serves you right. But he's and he's but realistically, you're never gonna know fully and all that until you go out exploring yourself, kid. You gotta go out there and see what the hell it is, for the most part. And he's saying, you know what, even after you see on there, it's if you stay in this land, there'll be a mountain of the things you never understand. So you should go out there, make some friends and all that. And he's sure that you'll get friends that will do anything for you. They're important, and never keep that whole whole thing of what Fairy Tail was, whole giant message of friendship was on there, which I was okay, get that in there for the shonen magazine, for the kiddies and stuff like that. And it's let's see where this series goes. And straight after that, it's a huge time skip to modern day with our characters, where we get to see our other characters, which is Rebecca and Happy. Now, whilst I'm here, I really don't want to see Happy again from Fairy Tail. I think it's just the fact that it's he's such a huge mascot, let's just have him in there again. It's again, I personally, I'm not, I don't really care too much for Happy, and I'm I don't think he needs, unless there's something more interesting you can add with the character, but it's again, I think it's just there just to be the kind of cute character that some people gravitate towards. However, what's interesting with Rebecca is that she's not a reporter, she's not got amnesia or anything like our previous two characters. She's a YouTuber. That was weird. She comes from the Blue Cat planet, where it's she's saying with her channel, it's man, I'm gonna make 1 million views, I'm gonna go to this old place, this Grand Bell Kingdom. I heard it was a banged up theme park, but it's it's a real fantasy world. And you see that this world, especially what we get to see with Grand Bell, is that this is oh, this is the Fairy Tail world. This is just you look at it and it's this is old fantasy on there, which is not, they're saying this is the stuff, it pretty much looks like Magnolia when you have a look at it. And it's and when they arrive, there are these automatrons just freaking out and stuff like that, where it's this is our first customer in 100 years has come, but that, play the fucking it's everyone just starts going crazy, and it's oh, oh, is this like what we're at the moment? Like have we got intelligent life form like automatrons? Like please don't tell me we're having some like Westworld kind of stuff here, whereas like they obviously have souls and stuff like that, and it's like how people treat them, and like yeah, whether or not we're going to be handling it as delicately as that in the first season, I kind of hope so. But we see from this world that it's like people go on here for like adventures. They live lavishly, like a princess. They make their dreams come true, and like she's there excited. It's like wow, this is all great, and then she's just like, oh, I need to actually just record this for my like YouTube. I'm like, wow, really? Like fucking really, Rebecca? Like the fact of what she's doing is like, oh wait, I forgot to put on the cat ears as well. I'm like, wow, fucking wow, she's doing anything for a fucking couple of clicks like that. Like that's the bit where it's like, wow. All right then. So the next E.N.D video is gonna be me with like fucking having my nips out and stuff like that. Why not? Like fuck this. I'm sure there's some chubby chasers out there that'll get an extra click or two from that. Like that was like a little bit where it's like, yeah, no, people will do that, but then again, it's just like, oh, our main girl has like sexually attractive like things. She's got the cat ears and everything on there. It's like, I feel like this is going to be the way where it's like, obviously where it was like with Lucy, she was more like, yeah, I'm in this like horrible like the outfit and stuff like that, and it's like this is the one where it's like she's going to be more willing to do it because it's like if I can get more clicks on YouTube and shit like that, and I'm like fucking all right, that's something on there. And they go on a quest and they fight a weird cat thing, and then it turns out she actually has a huge attraction to cats for the most part. So it's like that's why she's got Happy, that's why the monster on there. And this is where we meet our main character. And this was the very first look that we saw like from like the series. This is like tiniest bit, and this is where we meet Shiki, and he is like looks a lot different on there because he's got the longer hair dragging down like that. He looks kind of scary for the most part. And he's a little bit of the pervert for the most part. He's like there, like sniffing, looking around, like grabbing her face, and then grabbing boobs. He's like, "Oh, that's a woman then, I guess." Like, here's the thing, and I'll say this and all that because this design's different from what his actual design is. I way prefer this design of Shiki than the one that we actually finalized with, because like I like the longer hair. It's a lot different than just having the recolor for the most part. Like, especially in some panels, it's like, that's just, that's just Natsu for the most part. But it's like, this is like, no, why couldn't we just have this newer hairstyle? And I hope it's not the same reason as it was for like the whole Natsu's time skipped kind of deal, whereas like that was going to be his new design, but then the editors changed his fucking... I hope it's not that stuff, that it's like he just put that in there to be like a very sour little bitch about it, where it's like, nah, fuck it, I like this one and all that. But we find out he's the only human on the island, where it's like, wait, but why were the robots lying? They said that you haven't seen anyone for 100 years, but then they're like, oh, that's just shaky, don't worry about it, like, for the most part. And he's like, immediately when he's like looking around and all that, he's like just calm down a little, and instead of like asking some real favor and all that, he like really nervous. He's like, let's be friends, let's be friends. And it's like, she's like, you just groped me, you just attacked me for the most part, fuck you. I just knocks him clean out, and it's like, no, I ain't having this. And it's like, let's just get out of here for the most part. And it's just like, she's just trying to run away from him because he's like, this is a creep. And he's like, please, this is the first time I've ever met another human. Please, please, please. And it's like, and then come back. He's like, oh, you failed the quest. And it's like, what the hell is with that weirdo like that? It's like, oh, Shiki? And he's like, yo, what's up? Like, for the most part. And it's like, and they ended up having a party, like a party. They kind of ended up enjoying themselves for the most part. And it was like having all of these like going around like eating and stuff like that. It was a nice little thing. How the like it's set up more about like with I guess I say our main like kind of like antagonist for the most part, whereas like the king of this entire place, where like he's like trapped in like all of these like kind of like all these robes going around everywhere, like all of these lines on there, and it's like seemingly giving him like the last bit of his energy for the most part. And it's weird where they start talking around, and it's like Shiki's kind of role here is like he pretty much takes care of these guys. He's like, I fix them up, and he's like, I would like to go to another country someday. I would like to go somewhere else far away. And it's like, you've never left the island once. You've never like gone out to space or anything like that. And he's like, nope. Like, I've just been here. These guys need help and everything and all that. It's like, if I leave and all that, no one's gonna be around to take care of Michael. No one's gonna be here to take care of everyone else. And it's like, after that, it's like, you know what? let's just, like, why don't we just take care of them and all that? And it's like, why is he here and all that? He's like, well, Demon King left him here a couple of times ago, like, around about 10 or so years ago, and he's like, she just freaks out, like, wait, a Demon King? And it's like, he's a robot made for the role, and it's like, oh, thank God. I mean, clearly there's going to be more coming up with that guy. I still don't think, like, personally we've seen the end of the Demon King and Ozzy, their, like, relationship for the most part. It's like, there's probably a little bit more that he wasn't talking about, because the Demon King specifically says that Shiki is special. He's saying that, and we still don't know exactly where he found him. Like, there's a lot of unanswered questions on that. Whether or not it's clearly not setting up the relationship as that Shiki just wants to enjoy his life. He wants to experience the whole world. He wants to travel around. It isn't like Natsu looking for his father. It isn't Haru looking for these magical blades like on there. So different kind of quests. And the same thing with like with Rebecca as well. It's like she has different goals compared to the. So there are stuff that's different from there. Although you do see a couple similarities from how some of them act, like in this chapter. Same thing with kind of some of the actions that they do. Like you can see Shiki's kind of like a little weird, but he's there easily to anger, but he really cares for the people like close to him. Like you can see that from like a lot of the characters like already on there. Like this is the rinse and repeat kind of stuff that we've seen from this other stuff that it works. Like it works in this other series and it works in here. And I will say I like the world so far that they built in this chapter. Like I like the fact that like multiple different planets going around. Like that, it leads a lot more creativity to like you can have this fairy kind of tale kind of world. You can have the cyberpunk world. You can have like you can explore all different kinds of things because this was just an entertainment world. This is what that was, and we when we finally see a little bit more of it, where like Rebecca's like, okay, he's going to sleep flat out, and it's like, oh, could I please give him a haircut? I'm kind of bothered by it. I'm like, fuck you, Rebecca. Like I'd rather have that than the fucking like the rest of the shit on there, and it's like. And when we see her go to sleep and all that, it's like, oh, Shiki's like, he's like, my hair's gone, what's gone wrong? And they actually ended up kidnapping, like, Rebecca, like, in the middle of the night because they're like, well, you know what, and all that, you've got a ship, we're gonna pretty much use this as our chance to, like, get ourselves out of here. And it's like, no, we don't want to be, like, stuck here for another 100 years. Like, we will leave this world and all that. And it's like, we are machines, we're not to be used by, like, tools by humans. And that kind of, like, even with like how she would like Rebecca was at like saying about it, she's like, I didn't mean it like that. Like so that it's clearly setting up that like there is some robot human tension for the most part, like the races like from like the other worlds. Like there's clearly some of that stuff going on around here, and like not. And that they do have souls, they do have free will, like that's another thing as well, whereas like they're not just slaves, they are actually like other additional human beings. And that's a question, obviously, like things like Detroit Become Human, which does it very badly, and then there's season 1 of Westworld, which handles it really well, where it's like, how do you treat a brand new life? How do you treat that do you treat it like a slave, or do you like act like it's an equal, act like it has its own civil rights and stuff like that? And I'm not expecting, like, it's Hiramashima at the end of that, so I'm not expecting this really deep written version of, like, that kind of thing, but I'd like him not to, like, handle it, like, ass cheeks like David Cage, so, like, I'm hoping that he does go into that, because that's something that, like, he hasn't handled, and I don't know if that's a little bit too risque, for the most part, for, like, a shonen series to handle and all that, and I think, also, at the end of the day, I still think it's going to be a battle shonen from what we were getting, like, set up from this one, where we saw him fighting, like, the king going around, where he's like, no, they're, like, these are, like, they're my friends and all that, and it's like, we're not your enemies and all that, it's just like, we're merely, like, we're tired of playing our roles and all that, but it's just a stage performance, Shiki, and all that. It's like, you're not a real repairman in reality. This is just, like, this Granbell Castle has been using its whole repair system to fix everyone like that. It's like, that's not been really entirely you for the most part. It's like, you can't, like, you're not, like, we don't really need you. And he's just like, I'll bring everyone back to normal. Like, at first he treats, like, them, how they're acting, like this is a virus, and it's like, that ain't the case. It's just like, this is just how they're feeling. And it's like, he pulls off the robes, he's like, he's a combat ready model, and it's like, let's go. And this is where we now see the action side of things with Shiki, where exactly we get to see a little bit of him after, like, kind of Rebecca snaps him out a little bit, because he was getting stomped on. Like, he was like, they were like stomping on him, and he's just like, you're like taking him out, and he's like, look, how can you do this? You've been living with him this entire time. He's a member of this land. He's everyone's friend, and he's like, he said everyone here was his friend, like no matter what and all that. And he's like, being friends go beyond meaning if you're human or machine, whatever kind of race you are. As like, he immediately starts fighting back against them, and this is where we see this kind of ether, like this kind of whole ether like engine that we've been seeing, like how he was talking about it, and he can do some serious things to this, like with this ether gear. Like you see him like flipping around, it gives him enhanced strength. He is able to like Spider-Man on the walls, like he's able to float, like there's a lot of things already that this can do, like and especially when they've been talking about this, where it's like they talk about that this is a power from the Dark Ages. Now that is something where it's like, okay, now we need to understand what exactly the Dark Ages is. Like at this point, is this a time before like machine and scientific like advancement was like that high? Like does that mean like for the most part Shiki is part like cyborg for the most part? Like what exactly is like kind of this like part and all that? Like as he's fighting something on like a combat model that is like he is easily taking against, and like at the end we get to see his kind of whole little technique at the start, which is like De Machina punch and all that, and it just like destroys the robot and makes a giant ass crater. I would like to see, like, we haven't seen like everything that he can do with this ability. Like we just know that he has enhanced speed, strength, he can float, he can stick to walls. Like I would like to see like what else he can kind of come up with this ability, because the one thing I like Natsu for was like, even though like, you know, a lot of people can say about like what Natsu like can do, is like he actually had a lot of really cool like techniques. He had different ways of like manipulating his flames, whether or not that he would turn it into punch, kicks it, or like how he manipulated the flames around. Like he had the roar, like he had like the absorption ability of different elements. Like he always like tried to add something new to it. So I'm hoping that Shiki, like what we get to see him, isn't just, he isn't just Punch Man, but if he is going to be that, let him have some really kind of unique stuff on there. And it's like the fact that he was floating and they were calling it, it's like he's got the ether gear of gravity for the most part, and they talk about it's like the Demon King gave him this, like, so that's where it was more in this chapter where it's like that, yeah, there's something up with him. It was like, where the hell did he get something where it's like, as they're describing a dark casing, where did this Demon King robot get this from? And they just like, where's your bow? Alright, let's bounce the hell out of there. And it's like, you're coming. And I liked it for the most part that this was a twist around where it's like, you had the similar moment between like Natsu and Lucy, and I'm glad they did the opposite with this, whereas like Shiki was going to stay behind and take care of them and all that. It's just like, I need to take care of my friends for the most part. And then it's Rebecca that's the one that drags him out, and it's like, nope, you come with us, can't leave a friend behind, can I? And she like kind of smiles, and it's like, actually they take off on the Arca wing, and it was like, and there's a little sad bit about it when they leave and all that, saying, you want to see the outside world, right? And it's like, well, let's just see the space that you're in. And you see the Sakura like cosmos, and you just see like what pretty much looks like Tenrojima Island for the most part. You're just staring at them like, whoa, alright, like we get to see that. For the most part, it's just like, is you're taking a look outside. And then the sad little thing about what we find out about the robots is that this was their plan all along, is that they pretty much knew for the most part they didn't have a lot of time left, and they were like, we need to get Shiki out of here. Like, Shiki's just going to be, he's going to be depressed, he's going to be miserable, like, we can't do anything for him and all that. So the second, if they've been waiting all this time for like another human to come along, which to be fair, that was cutting it close for the most part, like for that point, whereas like, we need to get him out of here, we need to take care of this and all that. Like, he needs to go see the world, he needs to find out who he really is, like that's what he needs to do. And I got like, we got to see another part. It's like, as they're exploring the space and all that, it's like, oh look, that's gonna pass us real soon. Fucking dragons. We get to see this mechanical dragon spaceship like just pass through, and it's like, okay, what on earth is up with that? Like, it has the same symbol as what Rebecca has, like as a little heart thing, like on her, like on her chest, same thing with happy. So it was like, what is there, like what is the whole deal with that? It has those symbols on it, it has the key on there, and it's like, a lot of people are thinking that's that's something that like Lucy Harthilia like created. Like this is where a lot of people think this is the way future of fairy tale. This is like where it is, and that would be really cool if that is. Like I generally want to see it. Like there's clearly hints on that. Like we've always thought that they're in the same universe and everything, and it's like, well, now we've got a series where we can actually explore that universe. We have something where it's like, this might be the option that we finally get to have a look at, where it's like, there is a planet where Rave Master happens. There's a planet where Fairy Tale happens. Like, and I like to think that like this is kind of the like what he's trying to do with this one is like this is the actual universe itself exploring up, and that's kind of what I want to see. Where it's like this is stuff I wanted to do from like a series like this and that, and like explore all kinds of different things. So after doing 2 fantasy series, I want to do a sci-fi one. I want to do a sci-fi one mixed in with the fantasy stuff. And now looking at this, it's like this is the closest, like especially of how they're talking about the start of the chapter with dragons and same thing like this and all that. This is a clear, straight up nod, and especially with like you can just look at the symbols around the thing, like especially with like how like it's even like some of the markings on its wings and stuff like that is the same markings on Shiki like on there. That's like you're thinking, and then it was like, well, what kind of dragon is this? This isn't kind of like any of the ones that we'd seen. This isn't like anything like Atlas, Igneel, Metallicana, Grandine, so we don't know exactly which kind of one it was based off. But I like to say this is, obviously this takes place in the same universe, and yeah, I think this is the far future, like, for the most part. I think, like, I don't think any of these characters are overall, like, related at the moment, and, like, we still haven't got full, like, hints of that, but it's like, whether or not what exactly the full answer to this is, we're gonna have to find out very later on, depends on how long this series lasts, and with this like chapter like ending off like that, where it's like we get to see like that, like him like happy and exploring, going around like that. It was a kind of nice little moment that we got to see after like this kind of sad part of seeing like all the robots finally like deactivated. Like it's like all the Granbell robots have ceased functions now, and him like saying like he looks at his planet, he looks at Granbell. It's like you've been like on a theme park for this entire part of your life, and he's like, they were weird, but they raised me up and all that, and they were still my friends. And he's like, I'm never gonna forget you guys. And it's kind of sad that he doesn't know what's actually happened to them. That he thinks that they're all just still angry at him, and it's like, no. And like, you know, I'm just gonna. He talks and all that. It's like his whole big like plan at the moment. He's like, I'm gonna make 100 friends in this universe and all that. It's like I'm gonna like go around and like be like friends and all that. I've decided. And he's like, sure, good luck with that. And that's the end of our chapter. Like I said, there was a lot to go into this one. Like there was heavy amounts of material here. Like it's 80 pages for the most part. So, and this is where we get the name and all that. Like where they said he's going to be important, and like they described that his name is Shiki Granbell. That's where like they pretty much got from him. Overall, how was the chapter? I liked it. I did like it. There were parts of it where it's like I was worried on there. I think yet again the designs are very similar. I think again that's still going to be something that's just gonna really be annoying me for the most part. Like again, I kind of wish it was like how it was from Rave to Fairy Tale, and then his art style changed. I know it's already been such a short amount of time, but I am happy that they're not full carbon copy cutouts of like Natsu. Like it's clearly that they are going for a Natsu and Lucy relationship again, even with Happy being there, but he's changing it up, and it's like that's the problem again with the authors, where it's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I've said that multiple times when like this series has been announced, and like you can see with the other designs as well, there's a lot of like archetypes that we've seen before going on there, but there are additional twists. Like I like Shiki's backstory. It's already setting up there's like this huge divide between robots and humans. It's setting up something with like what is up with Shiki himself, where he's got ether gear and he's talking about how he has the ability to control over gravity. Like there are stuff that they're already setting up in this third chapter that I like. The Demon King as well, like there's something clearly different between him, like how I was worried that was going to be Igneel and like saying thing like Igneel and Natsu there, but it seems like there's a little bit of a difference for the most part on there, but it is kind of following the same kind of formula for the most part, which is a little, so like I'm being realistic, whereas like there are similar formula being added into there, there's some different changes on there, but I liked it, and I think people that liked Fairy Tail would really like it as well. So, but then again, this is still something where it's like I will seriously say this and all that. If you do not like Fairy Tail, if you do not like Raid Master, this first chapter is not going to convince you whatsoever. I'm very curious to see if this is your first time reading a Mashima series, whereas like obviously they talk a lot about like they talk about like all the stuff where it's like a friendship and stuff like that, which is a main thing in like a lot of this series and stuff like that. Like I will say like this much and all that, like if this did not win you over, then I can guarantee you that you're not gonna like the rest of the series. I will say that the etchiness, I was worried that it was going to be really bad in the first chapter. Thankfully, it's just a one like little grab. It shouldn't be, honestly, it shouldn't really be there in the first point for the most part. But like, regardless and all that, like, overall, I liked it. I did like this chapter. So far, I like the kind of relationship that we've got with some of the characters. I like what he's setting up with like the world and the universe for the most part. I hope he does explore a lot more things, and like obviously he does make those changes compared to like what he had with Fairy Tail. So, surprise, surprise! Yes, I'm going to be talking about this every week. Like it's going to be there, something where I want to talk about it. But yes, no, I was happy. When I was reading this chapter, I was smiling, and I was like, yeah, no, there was a part of me where it's like, I missed it. Even though it's been a short time, it's like, I missed this kind of stuff like that. It's like, this is something that is missing out of my week-to-week reading, and I want to have that back in my life. But the question is, do I want the same stuff that I've been reading for like the past like 5-6 years? And it's like, personally, I want something a little bit different, and maybe he might explore on that. But again, I'm there to see what you guys think. This was an extra long video and all that, so I do apologize for like how much, but there was a lot we needed to get into with Eden Zero's first chapter. There's a lot of pages to go into, so I'm going to be ending it off there. So thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you guys though next time.